So, do you remember back about 20 years or so, a bunch of studies came out that revealed quite surprisingly, and to the delight of many people, including myself, that, are you ready? Avocados are actually good for you. Do you remember that? Oh, that was like Christmas morning for me, just so we're clear. And if you don't like avocados, I forgive you. It's fine. It's fine. And I get it. I wasn't that thrilled when we found out that kale was a superfood either, but that's okay. That's okay. So this was about 20 years ago when we learned about the benefits of avocados. And now if you Google avocado recipes, there are thousands of them. Well, just like avocados are a superfood, which is now the staple for many of us, researchers also discovered about 20 years ago that there is a super emotion, just like we have superfoods, we now have a super emotion. That super emotion is awe, A-W-E, awe. Up to the early 2000s, the 6 most studied emotions within psychology were happiness, sadness, fear, anger, disgust, and surprise. But just like when many of us joyously and consciously added avocados regularly into our lives, for the benefit of our health, we have the opportunity to joyously and consciously add awe into our life for the benefit of our health. The title of my talk today is The Awe of It. Now, philosophers and religious scholars have explored this idea of awe for centuries. I was just talking with my Beyond Limits class, which is the first class that we have when you really want to dive into this teaching. I was explaining what a numinous experience is, when you feel oneness with the divine. That is awe. So over time, many people have thought of awe really as a spiritual experience. And as such, it was largely ignored by scientists, by psychologists until the early 2000s, but thankfully now it is being empirically studied. And as such, get this, here is what we know. Here is what science has told us about awe. Experiencing more awe is associated with living healthier and more meaningful lives. A 2021 study reported that feeling more awe is correlated with lower levels of daily stress, less inflammation in the body, increased feelings of well-being, life satisfaction, a sense of personal meaning in the world. Not only that, but emerging research shows that experiencing awe may make us more curious and more creative. It also makes us more compassionate people. We know that awe leads people to feel more connected to others and less individualistic. In various studies, when researchers induced awe in participants in laboratories, and they do this by showing, beautiful images of Earth, the vast images of Earth, and people feel that awe. They have recorded, and they know now that showing these panoramic clips, people actually behave more pro-socially and benevolently, being more likely to help out, to give more money, to donate, to volunteer, to help people that they don't know. The data is irrefutable. Feeling awe is associated with emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual health and happiness. So, what is this super emotion awe exactly? What is this? That's what I want to unpack for us today. The thing to know about awe is that awe experiences are self-transcendent. They shift attention away from ourselves and they make us feel like we are part of something greater than ourselves. When we think of the experience of awe, often, many of us think of things like what you just sang about, Darcy, about looking out into an ocean, hiking among the sequoias, seeing a baby be born, hearing a transcendent musical performance. But we can also experience awe in one-on-one moments with people, in relationship. And many times, these experiences happen to be with people that we do not know. As some of you know, just a few weeks ago, at the end of September, for my birthday, I spent 1 week and 2 glorious days in the Netherlands and Belgium, and this was an absolute dream of mine. And it was the very first time in my life that I ever traveled solo internationally. Has anyone traveled by themselves internationally? Okay, so this was my very first time. You know, our daughters are now young women. Our oldest just turned 28. I mentioned earlier, our youngest just went to a college fair, and I spent, a lot of years of my life changing diapers and driving carpools and, making Halloween costumes. I love Halloween now because I don't have to do that anymore. So this idea, I know that many of you can relate to this, being in a new place in your life, and that's where I'm finding myself. And so traveling internationally by myself was something that I have wanted to do for a long, long time. It was a dream realized. It was prayer answered. And I will share with you that I learned so very much about myself, that I want to share with you. When I landed in Amsterdam, I felt surprisingly more out of my element than I thought I would. I was a little bit surprised. Now, I was exhausted, and as I was, schlepping my backpack that I did not check, that ended up being a lot heavier than I planned, by the time I got out of Amsterdam, I was very tired. It was very heavy. I was a little bit overwhelmed. You know how that is when you go to a new place? I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed and just trying to get my bearings. I took one look at the train system, which I now know very well for the next time I go, but I was like, oh, forget it, I'm taking an Uber, So I got in this Uber, and it was really a fascinating experience. The Uber driver was named Eamon. He was lovely. And there I was sitting in the back of the Uber just trying to get my bearings. And okay, I'm doing this. I'm actually doing this. Hear me roar. I'm a little scared, but hear me roar, that. And I was sitting there, and this lovely gentleman, Eamon, was driving, and he was kind of a shy gentleman. You get some Uber drivers that are very chatty. And I could tell that he was trying to make conversation because he felt like he was supposed to make conversation. It was one of those moments. And so I just wanted to kind of, let it be. And he kind of was looking in the rearview mirror at me, and he said to me, where are you from? And I said, America. And his eyes got really big. And he said, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but we're feeling a little concerned about you over there right now. And I said to him, yes, we're feeling a little bit concerned as well. And then I did my duty, and I, on behalf of our beautiful country, apologized for the nonsense for the past several years. And I told him that many of us are busy at work, working together here in this community and across our country to ensure democracy. And he went, oh, thank God. We were immediate friends. It was great. And then it got quiet. He was clearly an introvert, which I'm totally cool with. So we're sitting there, and it's quiet, and I'm just kind of breathing, and I'm taking it all in. And this is sort of when you're going through the industrial part on the way to get into Amsterdam, the charming canals and all of that. And I was just kind of breathing, and out of the seeming blue, once again, he looks in the rearview mirror, and he says, I need to tell you something. And I said, what? And he said, I want you to know that you are completely safe here. I cannot begin to tell you what that was for me in that moment. And he continued. He said, I want you to have the best trip. And you need to know, something in me is telling me that you need to know this is the safest place you can possibly be. How many of you have been in my classes where I say that in my opening prayer? This is the safest place you can possibly be. It's a mantra of mine. And he repeated it, this Uber driver in Amsterdam, to me. He said to me, don't worry, if you get lost, and you will, just ask someone for directions. They'll be delighted to help you. I cannot begin to tell you in that moment how connected I felt to this man that I did not know. It was a moment of absolute awe for me. And involuntarily, tears just started coming out of my eyes. And he looked a little bit startled. And he said, no, really, you're going to be fine. And the thing is that him telling me that Amsterdam was completely safe and that I was going to have a wonderful time set the tone for my whole trip. And it was. I felt completely safe. I felt just surrounded by angels. I felt just this love around me. I met the most loving, kind, interesting, fantastic people. I had the most incredible experiences. Thank you, wherever you are, amen. I say to you, amen. You know, the thing is that when we pay attention as humans, what happens when we interact with each other, if we're paying attention, so often we angel each other. He angeled me. He listened. He was a little shy to speak, but he did anyway. He did anyway, and it changed everything for me. We create awe moments on behalf of each other all the time. You know that quote I love from Ernest Holmes, God can only do for us what God can do through us. So often God works through us for other people. And we have this opportunity to listen to that. Paramahansa Yogananda wrote, humans become angels on earth, not in heaven. We are here to become angels on earth, right here, for ourselves, for our families, for our community, for our country, for the world. Our shared experience of awe is connected to how we show up for each other in the most unexpected ways. You know, in fact, on the way back, when I was on my way back home, I had a connecting flight in Iceland, and there was lots of delays and getting around all the customs and all the things, and it was fine. Because honestly, I'd had such a great time that I was like, what? It's fine. There were a lot of anxious people around me, and I thought, well, we make the flight, we miss the flight. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's all God, it's okay. It'll be just fine. And it was this observant state for me to be in, observing this. Well, my little group of folks, we were, running through the airport because they were saying, the gate is closing. And I'm thinking, oh, this will be fun. Iceland, where will I stay? I ended up making the flight. It was fine, but there was a lot of rushed energy. And as we were standing in line, there was this couple right in front of me, and they were talking about their wonderful trip. And they were young, and they were clearly just in love. It was just so sweet to watch them beginning their lives together. I kind of overheard that they were newlyweds. It was just a delight. And right as we were, maybe there were 5 people ahead of us to get onto the airplane, the young woman stopped and went, oh my gosh. And she looked down. She had forgotten her wedding ring in the Airbnb, and she was frantically pulling out her phone, and she was trying to figure out, and I was just standing there, and I was just holding space, and she was like, oh, I don't even know how to make a call, we haven't even used this, I don't know how to do this, and she was trying to dial, and I could kind of see her phone, and I could see she wasn't dialing the international code, and she was just, her sweet hands were shaking, and her sweet husband just kept saying, I'm sorry, it's okay, it'll be okay, and we're inching up to the plane. And I knew that they were from Canada because I had overheard that as we were running. And I just took a breath, and I pulled out my phone, and I said, I don't mean to interfere. Here, please use my phone. I bought a plan right before I left, just dial 00. And I said, you know what? In fact, let's just pull aside, and let's just breathe. Let's just do this, okay? And she was like, oh. She dialed, she got through, and as she was talking with the person, I was just silently saying a prayer, affirming and knowing that her wedding ring was right there, and they were going to have it, and it would be safely shipped to her, it would be just fine. Her name was Tika. Hi, Tika. Tika and Amen. Anyway, and they found her ring. And people were going along. She gave me the phone back. And she, I am certain, had the same look on her face to me that I had to Amen when he told me that I was safe. She had that same look of sort of like a startledness and a moment of, how did this even happen? This wonder and awe of another human being doing what I believe we are here to simply do. And it was so fascinating in that moment because as I was getting on the plane, I thought of Amen in that moment. And I thought, well, look at that circle. Look how we get to do that in this life. Look how we get to do that. The spiritual truth is that we always have the opportunity to get out of our own way, to take a deep breath, even if it feels like a little bit of a stretch. They were having a whole moment, and I was like, excuse me. Sometimes that can take a moment of courage, especially if you are an introvert, But what I can tell you is that moment was one of the biggest gifts of my whole trip, was that moment with Tika, that moment. When you get the nudge to call someone, to text someone, to say, excuse me, with your phone, to take a breath and say, I need to tell you that you're safe. When you get that nudge, in whatever way that looks for you, that's an opportunity for you to bring awe to someone else. That's an opportunity for you to angel another human being. And I invite you to become aware, acutely aware of the opportunities that you have every single day to do that. Every single day. As people on a spiritual journey, it is the opportunity that we have to connect with Spirit, Source, God, whatever word you like, in the small ways and in the big ways. The great mystics from across millennia all knew this. They all understood this. The Christian mystic, Mechtild of Magdeburg, wrote, "The day of my spiritual awakening was the day I saw and knew I saw all things in God and God in all things." The day of my spiritual awakening was the day I saw and knew I saw God in all things. I knew I saw all things in God and God in all things. All things in God and God in all things. In an Uber, in an airport. There is a place called Bruges, Belgium. It is a European fairy tale town. If you have ever been there, truly it is amazingly beautiful. It does not look real. Those of you who've been there know what I'm talking about, or you can Google, and some of the pictures, just that alone will bring awe for you. And there's a church there. I love old churches. I love them because of the energy that I feel there. The energy that I feel there. And this particular church in Bruges was really one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, I actually went to Bruges. Because there is a church there, it's called the Basilica of the Holy Blood. Stick with me. The Basilica of the Holy Blood was built between 1134 and 1157. It's ancient. And this church houses what they call a relic of the Holy Blood, or a relic of the Passion. In this church, there is a small vial. And in this small vial is a small piece of cloth. And on this small piece of cloth are a few small drops of blood. And it is said, many believe that those drops of blood are from the man Jesus, from his crucifixion. Legend has it that it was brought from the Holy Land by Joseph of Arimathea, and it has been kept safe all of this time. Are you kidding me? Do you think I was going to miss that? That is like Disneyland for pastors. So, I needed to see this with my own eyes. It's housed in this beautiful, beautiful little church right off of this gorgeous square in Bruges. I had no idea what to expect. And this is the thing. I have absolutely no idea if it's really the blood of Jesus. I know for some people that is their belief, and I honor that fully. Me personally, me going there really had nothing to do with that in itself, because that for me was beside the point. Maybe yes, maybe no. But I knew there was something there for me, and I will tell you, when I walked up to the line, I walked up to these sort of stairs, and there's this ornate altar, and there was this gray-haired nun in beautiful vestments, and she was holding this vial in the most beautiful sort of prayerful stance, this little container. And I walked up there. I laid my eyes on it, and involuntarily tears just started pouring out of my eyes. Not because necessarily of what it was, but because of the shared experience of thousands of people who stood there before me and who will stand there after me. It was the shared awe of the human experience that brought tears to my eyes. We think so often that experiences of awe are about looking at a big ocean or beautiful trees, and that is true. But it is also the experience of shared humanity. I felt so moved. I felt so honored to share that spot right there and to have an opportunity in this lifetime to look at that sacred relic, just to look at it. You know, that was awe. That was awe for me. Taking it all in, I thought how magnificent across time. Since before Mechtild of Magdeburg had her spiritual awakening, all of us have shared this moment. And as I left that church, and the people were walking in, I couldn't help it. I was smiling at each one of them, knowing that we would have this shared experience. They didn't know me. They're probably like, okay. But I was so excited for them, knowing that we would share this in some way across time. The psalmist wrote, "The whole earth is filled with awe at your wonders. Where morning dawns, where evening fades, you call forth songs of joy." Awe is connected to joy. It is in everything and everyone across time. Awe lives within us and all around us. It is the language of angels. It is the communication of spirit, and science is now meeting this spiritual truth. My friends, just like avocados, you can find awe everywhere. And scientists have shared the many ways to do this. We don't have to travel halfway across the world to find it. If you do, that's great, but you don't have to. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Paul Piff. He is an associate professor of psychological science at the University of California at Irvine, and he says that while awe is related to the sense of oneness with humankind, it is not just that. In his studies, he writes, "I think you can have your mind blown in more mundane, minuscule ways and in everyday settings. Depending on where you live," he writes, "you can intentionally look at something giant, such as a mountain range, a tree, an ocean, but awe also occurs when we discover something tiny, through a microscope, or when we contemplate a piece of music or art, he suggests taking awe walks through your neighborhood or in nature, which is a never-ending source of awe. Awe walks. You could sit on your, bless you, darling, you could sit on your balcony or your porch or look through your window and take in, commit yourself to the awe of it. In her talk last week, Shelley introduced to us the beautiful book Thrive by Arianna Huffington. We have some in the bookstore, right, Carolyn? No. All right, order them online. It's a great book. It's a terrific book. And in her chapter on wonder, Arianna talks about her daughter Isabella, who's an art history major. And one of her assignments was to go to a museum and sit in front of a painting for 2 hours, 2 full hours, in front of one single painting in a museum and write down her experience. This is so unusual, the security guard actually came over to check and make sure there was nothing nefarious happening. That's how much this is not yet incorporated into our culture. I believe it will be. What I love is Isabella described the assignment as both exhilarating and unsettling. Unsettling because she realized that she had never really seen a painting. And exhilarating because she was finally seeing one for the first time. Rumi wrote, "Awe is the salve that will heal our eyes." Awe is the salve that will heal our eyes. When we commit to seeing awe and wonder in everything that is in front of us, every being, everything we see, it will change the way we see the world. Science has proven what the mystics have known for millennia. We have the ability to actually seek out awe, to choose it with each other and with our world, to sit and to be with it, as Isabella taught me in this book, to allow it to reveal itself to us. During this time in human history, my friends, we have the opportunity to evolve so that we live in the place of awe and wonder at it all, so that angeling, that's my new word, I made it up, angeling each other becomes our natural state of being. So I invite you this week to seek out the awe in the vast and the small. It brings so much joy. It brings so much joy to make that conscious decision. So I invite you to seek out awe and to angel those around you. Hi, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this message supported you. We are a nonprofit, and we do all of this based solely on the gifts that you give. No amount is too small or too large. You can text to give. You can go online and check out our website. We're doing so much. You can give that way. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this community, and for supporting this message of bringing more light, more love, and spirit-led social action out into the world. Thank you. You're loved. So loved.